the process of not knowing the system. Going to my friends, asking them, should I get an attorney? I started going to counseling, you know, doing whatever the steps. I lived 45 minutes from Phoenix. I lived out in the suburbs. I'm still teaching tennis. I'm a nervous wreck, trying to hide this. I'm under, they dropped it to a felony 5 versus a felony 3, which is not as bad, but it's still a pending felony. This public defender, Jamie Nolan, she's fresh out of law school. She's married to a top criminal attorney, James Nolan. So I'm thinking, well, at least she's getting some good advice. She was on her way to become a prosecutor. She's ready for that notch on her belt. So she had met my daughter. She'd never been to my house, though, pushing me to take a plea. Well, a plea, for me, I didn't know what probation was, like parole. Her plea agreement was guarantee no jail. No one would ever see this. It would go up on a shelf, just like traffic school, no probation fee. Guarantee of no jail, guarantee of no jail, guarantee of no jail. Okay? Just plead that you're guilty. I had a summer job in the Hamptons because, as you know, in Phoenix, Arizona, it's too hot to teach tennis outside. So I was all set up for a very lucrative job in the Hamptons. And so I thought, avoid trial. She said it would be, I could get a crap jury, go to prison for 10 years. I'd have to drag all my neighbors in. It would be another felony on my record because I talked to my neighbors. Well, of course I talked to my neighbors. We live in a cul-de-sac. So I thought, oh no, now I could get 2 felonies. Or maybe even 3 because I talked to 2 sets of neighbors. And she said it would be terrible. In hindsight, after the fact, she had been harassing my neighbors by calling them all the time, trying to get all the dirt she could on me, which there was no dirt.
Your attorney?
The public defender. Yeah, and my neighbors, who cares if they would have had to skip work for a 2-day trial? And she made it sound like it would have been horrible. And horrible to put my daughter on the stand. What was horrible was 3 years of being on probation for my daughter. To lose her mommy, because I did go to jail on probation violations. I ended up believing my public defender. She wore me down. She called me started 10 times a day. Right, this is adding up right before the supposedly trial. I said, I was asking my friends, just getting really nervous. I said, okay, I don't want to take the plea, but okay, I'll take the plea. I went in to take a plea with a Judge Woodmer. And she tried to make it sound worse. She said, say your doors were locked. Say that you didn't know where. I said, I did know where my daughter was. She said, say that your daughter didn't have a coat on. And even if the worst scenario, it still wasn't a felony 5. CPS was never involved. CPS, there was no child abuse. If it was child abuse, why wasn't Child Protective Services involved? That is the key. If this would have gone to trial, a jury would have laughed this out of the courtroom. So that, I just want to remind you of that. So I went to the first Judge Woodburn. He started to ask me questions, and I'm ready to break down. And he said, Miss Nolan, this was up at Anthem at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The daughter was almost 7 years old. He denied the plea. He wouldn't take my plea guilty, and he pulled her in the chambers afterwards. And I came out and I go, I told you I'm not guilty of this. And so she ended up, she goes, I know a judge that will take your plea. I go, just drop this already. And so it ended up, I thought for sure, I went home and I told Carl, my friend, and he said, this is great news. She started calling me again. She goes, You have to take the plea, otherwise we're going to go to trial and you're going to lose and you're going to go to prison. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she just wouldn't stop. Jamie Nolan would not stop harassing me. And so she started pounding me. You're not going to be able to go to the Hamptons. We're going to move your court date. Terry Clark, the prosecutor, can't make it. You're going to lose your summer job. You're not going to be able to support your daughter. And I'm a wreck. And finally she said, how about no contest, a diversion plea? A diversion? Nobody, like I said, nobody will ever see it. 6 months, 1 class per month, 1 counseling class, not even parenting classes. This sounds like a great deal. This is a plea agreement. 1 class per month, no fee. It would be paid. Here I'm supposedly a child abuser, a guarantee no felony. I get to go to the Hamptons, be in charge of 250 kids tennis. That sounds pretty good, which I did. I went twice. I went Memorial Day and for the whole summer with my daughter. I had someone take care of my dogs. So I'm not out of my entire mind. This happened. I went, had a wonderful summer. I took it. I came back from the Hamptons. I made about $30,000 that summer. Had the one, I taught Madonna's tennis, I taught Britney Spears' mattered. I came back with 2 probation officers, Trish O'Connor and Deb Jones, knocking at my door. I could never teach kids tennis again in my life. Have to report to all employers I'm a child abuser, felon 5. I lost my tennis career right there. I could never vote either, as long as I lived. I said, how am I gonna, I work, how am I gonna support my daughter? I don't get child support. And they said, well, we didn't do the crime. Guaranteed of 1 month of jail, the month of December. I'm like, that's Christmas time, who's gonna take care of my kid? They said, you pled guilty to a felony 5. I said, I did not. I pled guilty to a diversion. I said, get Jamie Nolan on the phone. And this is when it started computing. I started trying to do the reversal of the plea, filing, and I don't know if you've heard other stories. Trying to do the reversal of the plea is almost impossible. Once you sign that piece of paper, this was the same judge, as you remember, Judge McVeigh, that dropped my case, same prosecutor, and this is Maricopa County. So all I could think of is just keep doing what these probation officers want me to do until I can get this reversal of the plea. They want me to get a full-time job, not tennis. I can teach adults, tell them I'm a child abuser, never teach kids tennis, and report to all people. So 40 hours a week, I lose my house, I have to move to the city, so I moved to Paradise Valley, to take my daughter out of school in the middle of the school year. This is around the 9/11 time. So I had that whole New York thing because I just got back. I have to get a roommate. They told me buy a junker. I go, what about my car, my lease payment? Buy a junker. Get a babysitter. I go, my daughter goes to work with me. She takes my tennis classes, so I get to be with her. These probation officers, they didn't care. All MMP1 tests, which I took, MMP2 tests, mental tests, drug tests, counseling, all their classes, money, talk about money, time, how do you do all their classes.